My name is Jeff Willauer. I am the yearbook advisor at Waunakee High School. If you're from Dane County, kind of the central part of the state, we are just north of Madison, Wisconsin. I've been advising for 17 years now. We've had it as a class for 16. We've had staffs as high as 75, staffs as low as 6 students. We do 242 pages full color. That's what we're doing. No, 260 this year, I think is what we're doing. We've been as high as 272, depending on what we're covering, those sorts of things. So we have a pretty large book. We are a class, so we try and do the best we can on every single page. The first thing I want you to realize, if you are part of your editorial staff for your publication, keep this in mind. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You can pick and choose small things to go ahead and affect change over the course of your time working on your publication. You're not going to get it all done in one night. You're not going to get it all done in 1 year, or even maybe the course of while you are at the school, but at least you're moving in the right direction. So today we're going to talk about captions. Captions are basically the little stories in your yearbook, on your spread, in your newspaper that get read the most. I tell my staff, do not be delusional. Most people, when we're talking about yearbooks, so I apologize to the newspaper people because I'm yearbook related, most people don't read our yearbook for the articles. Your generation right now, students right now, are used to getting their information in short little chunks. In our yearbooks, the short little chunks that are the vehicle to get information out are the captions. So captions are the little stories that get read the most. I'm going to go ahead and give you a formula that you can use back at your publication that you can strive for that'll help you turn your captions into miniature stories. When we do this on my staff, our goal is to hook the reader with a caption. First of all, we try and hook them with a picture. Then we try to get them to read the caption, and hopefully they stick long enough to actually read the article that we went ahead and spent time on. So, captions. You probably have heard the phrase, picture's worth 1,000 words. That's true. But a picture can't give you everything. You need to have captions on your page to help the reader fill in the blanks when you are trying to get information to them. A yearbook photo without a caption is like watching a movie without sound. Yeah, you can watch a movie with the sound muted, but you're not going to get all the details. It's the same thing with a yearbook photo or a newspaper photo. You can have a person look at those photos on the wall, but if you don't have the background information, all you see is a nice picture. Second one from the left, all you see is a row of cars. That's all you see. Without that caption, you don't get the background story. Captions are the most read copy in the yearbook. It's like your article. Captions should be well-researched, interesting, and informative. We strive for 3 sentences, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and show you, all right? At a minimum, at the very, 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 very minimum, your caption should identify the people clearly pictured in the photo. We go ahead and give them a title, first name, last name. We are from a smaller school, and last year we had 3 sets of this happen in the senior class. We had students with the same name. So not only do we do like senior John Smith, we'll also go ahead and throw in a middle initial just to kind of keep them separate. So at the very minimum, you need to go ahead and identify the person in the photo. Each staff is going to have their own specific guidelines on how they do that, but we always throw an identifier in there, which would be senior, junior, freshman, sophomore, superintendent, math teacher, grade level principal, whatever it might be, and then their first and last name. We also have some other rules when we're identifying people in photos. So for example, if we count to the number 6 in terms of people we can see clearly, if it's less than 6, we try to identify everybody, all right? If we have more than 6 people in a group, we identify the group or some other general way to identify that photo, and then we move on. Obviously, this includes team, club, and organization photos. That's a whole different beast, which if we have time to, we can talk about that in a little bit. Our captions use a formula. We use 3 sentences. The reason we do that is because if we follow this formula, it guarantees our captions are going to be interesting. It guarantees that if students read the captions on the page, they're going to get some basic information about that spread. It's a reader service. We want people to actually enjoy our book. We put that picture on a page for a reason. We typically get 7 to 10 photos on a page. We want those photos to be understood for what they really are, all right? It's like reading a miniature story. you all are used to short chunks of information. I mean, Twitter is what, 140 characters? Some people might get boosted up, which there's a big outroar. I get that. We get short bursts, all right? And we want to go ahead and use our captions like this short burst of information. So, first part of the caption formula. Like I said, if you want to go ahead and kind of jot these down, if you want to take screen snaps, that's fine. Otherwise, I can email it to you. You're going to be going through this in about 5 minutes. First part of a basic caption formula is this first sentence, which is present tense. We want to accurately describe who is doing what in the photograph. It could include the when, the where, if you know it. You should always try to start this sentence with a word that gives a description instead of a person's name. If you start every caption with a person's name, it becomes boring. Boring doesn't get read. All right? So we want to go ahead and start with a nice, strong first sentence. Present tense describes who is doing what. If you've got the space, the time, the creativity, include the when and the where. Try to avoid starting it with a person's name. Part 2, past tense. This is where the caption really kind of does its job. We want to add more information to that photograph that the viewer can't get just from looking at the picture. All right? Add in other related events. Add in some background. Add in what happened before that picture was snapped in time. All right? We want to go ahead and explain what's going on with these photographs. You can look at them and get them at face value, or we can give the reader a little deeper story. Part 3 is the hardest one. Add a quote. This is the one where my students struggle the most. Is adding a quote from either the person who is in the picture or a person related to the action of the photo. My students always get stuck on identifying the student that's in the photo. Well, I know, you guys are busy. It's hard to find you guys sometimes. My students get stuck there. You don't have to always interview or get a quote from the person that's the subject of the photo. Get a quote from their parents, their coach, their advisor, a teammate, a manager, a principal. Somebody else who knows that person or knows what's going on can be a viable source for a quote. It is never okay to start a quote with "in this picture," all right? Quotes are difficult. They're the ones that my students were still struggling with. In fact, if you were to ask me where this kind of breaks down on my personal staff, we strive to have 3-sentence captions for all of our pictures. This is the one that typically gets left off, all right, because it's the most difficult. It's the most uncomfortable. If you are a person that, when you're with your group of friends and you're the one always trying to avoid ordering the pizza or placing the phone call, this might be something that's really uncomfortable for you, but you got to practice at it, all right? So here's how this works. Here's an example. Full disclosure, that's not my photo, but we went ahead and wrote a caption for it. So remember, sentence number 1, present tense, kind of telling the who, the what, maybe the where and when. So, munching on a strawberry lollipop at the KEMPA Journalism Convention in October, Yearbook editor Susie Cook waits for an autograph from professional journalist Nick Clooney, father of actor George. Present tense, explaining what's going on in the photograph. If we took that caption away, all you would see is a girl with a sucker in her mouth waiting in line. That sentence 1 already gave you information that you didn't know from that photograph, or gave you information you wouldn't be able to see or to understand or know just by looking at it. Sentence 2, Cook and 12 other staffers attended the 4-day convention where their yearbook, The Blaze, won first place in the yearbook division. Once again, background information. There's no way that you would have ever gotten that chunk of information just by looking at that. Sentence 3. Nick Clooney, like so amazing, Cook said. He talked about getting into journalism as a kid before he won all those awards, and I was like so freaked out by the whole thing. Quote from this person right here. That's the nugget. That's what you're going for. That's what you really want to strive to get, is that third sentence. It makes it personal. It adds emotion and background to that caption or to that picture again. All right? So looking at that photo, here's the whole caption. And it looks like a lot because it's big on my screen. In reality, that's going to take up about an inch of space, top to bottom, on a yearbook page. Munching on a strawberry lollipop at the, I changed it up again, Phoenix National Journalism Convention in April. Newspaper editor Susie Cook waits for an autograph from professional journalist Nick Clooney, father of actor George. Cook and 12 other staffers attend to the 4-day convention where their newspaper, The Call, won Best of Show 16-page division. Nick Clooney, like so amazing, Cook said. He talked about getting into journalism as a kid before he won all those awards, and I was like so freaked out by the whole thing. If we didn't have that caption, all you would see is a girl with a sucker in her mouth standing in line. Now you've got a miniature story. If you've got 7 to 10 photos on your page and you challenge yourself to do 3 sentences for each photo, you now have 7 to 10 miniature stories that give the reader, someone in your school, a parent of a student in your school, someone in your community, more information that they would have had if they had simply seen that photograph. All right? If we had simply seen her name, Susie Cook, we wouldn't have known who she is, what she was doing, or where she was. So if you can challenge yourself to implement this 3-sentence formula, you're going to go ahead and put 7 to 10 miniature stories on each page. All right? Sounds difficult at first. The first year we tried doing this, we didn't do very well. My kids pushed back. Second year, we tried a little harder. More and more kids bought into it. Third year, we actually had students start telling us, hey, this yearbook's really cool. We like this. Fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, then we started focusing on every photo needs 3 sentences. The challenge then became, all right, getting it all laid out, space on the page, but those are little problems. We can fix that with font size. We can fix that by changing the space between the lines of text. It's a good problem to have when you write too much. All right? So, what we're going to do is we're going to take a second. We're going to go ahead and we're going to practice this. So, and this is what I do with my students. I usually give them 4 or 5 photos. We're going to do 2, maybe 3 in here. We're going to have you practice writing these sentences right now. So take out a sheet of paper. You can go ahead and jot notes down on. I randomly select my victims, so just be aware. If you don't have a piece of paper, take out a personal device. If you don't have either of those, talk to your neighbor, see if you can borrow one, or hopefully your memory is really good because everybody is eligible to answer these. All right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to write a sentence 1. Remember, it's present tense. We want to include some pretty cool verbs. Try and include as many of the 4 W's of the photo without simply telling the obvious. If you can see it in that photograph, it doesn't bother to restate it. Here's our info. The who is sophomore Haley Buck and her father Ray. The what is after the first race of the year. Judging by the uniform, I'm going to go with cross country, although it could be track. Where? The Riverwood Golf Club finish line. Saturday, October 11th. Now, here's where I need to go ahead and put a little professional disclaimer. You don't know this person, you don't know this background, you don't know this story. So for this example, for this practice, we are going to make stuff up. In real life, you don't ever do that as a journalist. You never want to make up information. In fact, on my staff, that's instant dismissal with an F for the year. For this practice, though, we're going to go ahead and make things up. So I'm going to go ahead. It's 10:42. At 10:45, I'm going to choose my first victim, and they're going to tell me their first sentence. Let's see what you guys can do. Remember, you're writing a present tense sentence. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time is up. All right, first things first. I always like to give people a chance to go ahead and volunteer. Do I have any volunteers that are brave enough to read their first sentence? You do? You want to? What's your name? Alex, give it a shot.
Exhausted after the first race of the year at Riverwood Golf Club, sophomore Haley Buck is held up by her father, Ray, while she waits for her medal.
All right, good job. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. I appreciate that. Not hard. Was it hard? Not hard at all. All right. So, moving on. We're going to add to it. Sentence 2, past tense sentence that offers background, context, and/or significance to the photo. Remember, we want to add information to that you can't get from that photograph, all right? Something different than what we just talked about in sentence 1, all right? Write up your sentence. Once again, we don't ever do this in real life, but you're allowed to go ahead and make up any facts you need. Let's go ahead. You've got 3 minutes. Begin. All right, pencils down. Anybody want to volunteer a second sentence? You?
Yeah.
Go for it. What's your name?
I'm Indy.
Where are you from, Indy?
I'm Parkview.
Okay. Go ahead, give it a shot.
The Riverwood Golf Race was the first race of the year, and Haley just managed to finish before her foot got caught in a hole and she twisted her ankle.
Every year, I guarantee it, about 80% of you is either going to be blew out her knee or sprained an ankle. Every year. I like that. Good job. All right. Give her a round of applause. Good job. All right. Next up, a quote that reveals from or about somebody in the photograph. It should reveal the personality of the person and the moment. In my classroom, when I do this, I have someone role play with the person next to them to go ahead and get a quote from either Haley's point of view or her father Ray's point of view. We're not going to do that right now, but I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Go ahead and add a quote, not a fact, a quote from Haley or Ray. 3 minutes, go. All right, pencils down. So, do I have a volunteer? Go for it. What's your name?
Harry.
Harry, where are you from?
Berlin.
Berlin. All right, let's hear it.
I knew it was going to be hot, so I made sure I was hydrated. I wish I would have braced my ankle. Stepped in a hole now. I might miss the upcoming Lil Pump concert.
Lil Pump, I'm not confused. But all right, round of applause. All right, so as you can see, in 9 minutes total time, we went through and with a group of students, maybe your staff, maybe a group of incoming people to your staff, we went through and we wrote one caption for one photo. If you do the math on that, 10 photos on a page, average about what's on a yearbook page, 9 minutes of photo, and you're going to get better over time. That's an hour and a half total time worked on captions. All right? You got an hour and a half, and I'm not sure what your deadline rotation is. In my classroom, they've got about 13 days between spreads. An hour and a half over the course of 13 days isn't a lot of time to go ahead and get people to go ahead and read your copy in your yearbook. Now, so this is the first thing we do as a group. And what we then do to kind of move on is we go ahead and I give them a couple samples. So what we're going to do, let's see. Let's do this one. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go ahead and write a full caption for the photo that's on the screen. And like I said, in my class, we do them all. But in this one, we're going to do this one. So this is senior Kyle Meffert and Dean Helt. Before the final AP Calc test during the second semester, both need a passing grade to graduate. All right? So both people need a passing grade to graduate. We've got 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and get a 3-sentence caption. Once again, only in this instance, only you're allowed to make stuff up. Go ahead. Have at it. All right, time's up. Pencils down, please. I'm going to have a little fun. Who has homecoming today at their school? Stand up. Anybody? Oh, you. What's your name? Seth. Seth? You scrouch down first. Where are you from? Parkview. Parkview? You feel comfortable giving it a shot?
Not really.
Go for it.
Seniors Kyle, Meffert, and Dean help each other review for the AP Calculus test. Both said that they need to pass this test in order to make it to their college.
All right. Let's give him a round of applause. Some courage. All right. Anybody want to volunteer to give theirs? You do? Have at it. Where are you from? What's your name?
My name's Holly and I'm from Belleville.
Holly from Belleville. I know where Belleville is. It's on my way down to New Glarus.
Alright, cramming for the final AP calculus test. Seniors Kyle and Meffert need help prepare to get a passing grade. Both Kyle and Dean needed the passing grade in order to graduate with the class. They'll help scrape by with a 62%, but everything is 42. Man, I wish I would have studied sooner, said Meffert. Now I can't believe it.
Good job. Round of applause, guys. All right. So here's what we do from this point on. We go ahead and we practice this a couple more times. Like I said, I've got more photos. What I recommend doing is if you're going to take this exercise back to your staff, grab some photos from previous years where maybe you didn't have a caption that you thought was good enough for that photo. Practice with people you may know. It's a little bit easier. You'll get there. In fact, we just had a bunch of good captions written in the span of about 25 minutes, all right? If you keep practicing at it, you're gonna go ahead and get better. Some tips for captions. Captions should contain all parts of the 3-part formula. We talked about that. Present tense sentence, past tense sentence, quote. Unless there's a valid reason for changing the standard format that the EIC, Editor-in-Chief, has agreed to. On our policy, these are all rules of thumb, not hard rules. There are or may be an instance where we go ahead and break away from this. I give you, it's not very often, but my Editor-in-Chief has the final say. All right, next up. The format is somewhat flexible. I gave you a certain 1, 2, 3. We also allow students to go ahead and mix up the order if it makes sense. That adds variety to your captions. Remember, if it gets boring, it's not going to get read, all right? No sentence should begin with a, and, or the, all right? That's one of the rules that we have, all right? The hard part once we start getting into this is varying the sentence openings. You're going to go ahead and realize that you might start the sentence with the same opening chunk of words for every caption. Challenge yourself to change that. And like I said, the 1, 2, and 3 may be interchanged. We've got 11:03. I've got a couple more slides. Group caption tips. I talked about normal captions. Here are some things we do for our group captions. We try to organize in rows when possible, all right? One thing that we do is we bring a notebook or a sheet of paper and we actually pass them down the rows because we shoot all of our own club and org photographs for our groups. We have a school photographer, contracted photographer that does the sports ones, but we pass a notebook down the row when we get them. We have kids just sign their first and last name. That's something real easy to get first and last names. It somewhat puts them in order and it helps you with spelling and identification. When we label students, label from left to right, front row, second row, third row, fourth row, etc. The final row is always called the back row. Label everyone. In my yearbook, I was labeled as question marks, Jeff, which is my first name, some weird spelling of my last name more times than I can count, and I was a couple X's one time. We don't want to do that to people, all right? We label everyone. When we have an issue, we actually print out that group photo on a sheet of paper, circle the people we don't have identification for, and we walk around the school. We go to the team, we go to the captain, we go to the office, we go to the library, study hall. We're in a smaller school. We only got 1,300 students. Some of you may be in bigger schools. Try to identify everybody. Last but not least, and I know this is kind of a student thing, you like to put placeholders in. Some people put placeholders in as just like comma, space, comma, thinking that you're going to remember that when your stuff comes back on proof or later on down the road in an edit. I tell my students, do a line of X's with an underline, another line of X's, make it the brightest color that you can see. We use InDesign, so we actually highlight it and turn it bright pink. That way when we print out our proofs, we see bright pink X's and like, oops, we can't have that showing in our yearbook, all right? Here's an example. All right, that's our basketball team. We also go through, and for us, for the managers, we also put MGR for manager because we want to go ahead and include those people too. Sometimes those people work harder than the athletes. We also go through and we identify coaches, and we do it first and last name. We don't just put Coach Johnson, all right? We put first and last name. That is the last slide that I have. It's 11:05. I want to give you guys some time for questions if you have any. I want to give you a chance to go ahead and fill out the kind of the survey that you guys are supposed to fill out for each session. Here is my email address. If you want to go ahead and email me, I will send you a copy of this, no questions asked. Any questions? You guys have any questions for me? Question, right here. Where are you from? What's your name?
Christina.
Christina? Where are you from?
I live in Beloit, but I'm from Georgia.
Okay, you live in Beloit. All right, what's up?
The things that we fill out, do we give them to you?
I have an envelope right here. I promise I won't look at them. All right, so you can actually put them face down on there. I'll slide them right in there. Any other questions about captions? No? I can't believe I did that good. Question.
What's your opinion on like lead-ins for captions?
Lead-ins for captions, this is going to be very middle of the road. I like to leave that up to the staffs. What does your staff feel?
I mean, last we try to keep it like the standard, like we try to either say we're gonna do all the things or not lead-ins, but last year we kind of ended up.
I think staying with one style, either all or none, but you could have your lead-in be your first sentence. I mean, that's something that most people do. Like for us this year, we're looking at highlighting the first sentence and bolding it with a little different color. Something you can do. Any other questions? Question? Yeah, you can. On our staff, if we want to do that, we get the okay from the editor-in-chief. In our case this year, it's Megan. If Megan gives her blessing. My job is basically to make sure my students are responsible journalists, get it done on time, and get it done on budget. I have a 4-year editor-in-chief. She's been on staff 4 years. She knows the in and out. It's my student's book. If she says okay, I'm going to let her run with it. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you for... question in the back.
How long should each sentence be?
Pardon?
How long should each sentence specifically?
Each session be? Sentence. That's a great question. I didn't talk about this. We try and wordsmith our captions. We'll write them out the first time, and then we try and reduce them. Every word you put on your page should have meaning, all right? Should give meaning to that sentence. So if you can go back and wordsmith and make it smaller, great. Typically, we try and keep our captions to less than 60 words. Same thing with like paragraphs or body copy, but sometimes we can't, all right? Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Remember, turn in your survey forms up here. Just be careful of Jamie's camera back here. Don't knock it over. You guys can go ahead and head out to lunch.